Welcome back to the channel, folks. I'm putting together a kind of a cheap chain follow-up for my $100 chainsaw video series, and I thought, well, while I'm doing that, I'll order some 28-inch chains for the 372 and the 660. So I thought I'd just give them a quick compare, kind of run them a little bit, see how they hold up compared to each other, how much they stretch, how well they take a file after they've been used. It's kind of just a little quick overview. So we'll get them unboxed here. This is a Forester. If I can get it unknotted. Alright, get these out of the way here. There we go. And you can see this is a full chisel skip tooth chain. I believe this Archer is also a skip tooth full chisel. Once I get all these unboxed, I'll break out the macro lens and we'll take a better look at the cutters. This Forester doesn't have much for identifying markings on it. Just says it's a 3/8, which would make sense. It's a 3/8 pitch, 63 gauge, 92 drive links. That's what fits on the 28-inch bar that I put on the 372. It is a steel bar. Also fits the my 660. So here's the Archer. Again, skip tooth, full chisel. I believe this one does say Archer on the other side. Yeah, it does. Again, I'll break out the macro lens, give these a better look. Here's the 810. This is the only chain I could find that had one that fit both my 28-inch bar and the 20-inch bar that's on the $100 chainsaws. So this is a full comp, full chisel. This one does say 810 on the links on both sides. And the last one's this V Modest. If I can get it open. Again, this is a full comp, full chisel. Not seeing any markings on this, just an arrow and some numbers there. Okay, so we'll put these aside for a minute and I'll break out my macro lens. Okay, so I've got the macro lens set up, so let's take a little closer look at these cutters. So this is going to be the 810. You see right on the cutter right there. This one looks like it's a round ground or round filed profile. And it definitely looks like a full chisel. What's on the other side? It says 810 on it. So next up is going to be the Forester. And this is going to be one of the skip tooth full chisel. Anything on this side? Does not appear that way. Again, this one looks like it's been round filed or round ground rather than square. The other chains I've been looking at for the $100 chainsaws, those all look like they're square, or at least the majority of them. So this is going to be the Archer. You can see right on the cutter there where it says Archer. Again, this is a skip tooth full chisel. Again, this one looks like it's got a round ground profile rather than square. And last but not least, we'll take a look at the V Modest chain. This also looks like it's round rather than square. This is the full comp, full chisel. Anything on this tie strap? Nope. This one's got the dimples in the drivers, supposedly to help carry oil. I don't know how true that is. The other 3 chains do not have that. So that's a quick look at the cutters. Next up, we'll have to get these put on a saw, get them put into wood, and see how they hold up. I'm going to take measurements before and after of the chain lengths and see how much they stretch as they're being used. I'm back up on the hill. I've got a log chucked up in the backhoe. I took a few cuts to clean up the end of this log with the 372 28-inch bar. I used the chain that was on it. I don't remember what brand that is, but I've got the 810 chain on it now. Let's fire it up and see how it cuts. Well, that's the 810. Seems to cut pretty good. This is a full comp chain. Let's go throw on a different one and see how that one cuts. This is the V Modest full comp chain. Let's see how this one runs. Oh, that was the V Modest. Let's go put on another chain. This is the Archer skip tooth chain. I don't believe I've ever run a skip tooth chain before, so curious how well this is going to cut. Look at that chain stretch. I did measure them all before I started using them, and then I'll measure them again when I'm done, just to kind of quantify which one stretches more than the other. Let's go get another chain. And the last chain is the Forester skip tooth, and this was absolutely miserable to get on. It is too short. I didn't even tighten the chain. It's just I had to cram it on there. We'll see if it stretches a little bit. But this is also a skip tooth. So let's see how this one goes. Well, there's our timed cuts. You can see the times for those. I've got a whole pile of logs over here, pretty nasty and dirty. They were skidded out of the woods when we built our pond there a year and a half ago. So they're covered with dirt and grime and silt and stone. So I'll cut up a couple logs with each chain and see how they hold up. Then I'll get hopefully get some close-up footage, the cutter damage, and then I'll see how well they take a file. So this is the 810 chain, freshly filed with the steel 2-in-1 filing system. Let's see how this compares to what it did factory new. was the 810 chain. Here's the Forester skip tooth chain. I did use the still 2-in-1 filing system, but it's not designed for skip tooth, so it's pretty much a freehand file. Just happen to be using the steel system. Let's see how this one cuts. That was the Forester skip tooth chain. This is the Archer skip tooth chain. Again, filed with the still 2-in-1 system, but more of a freehand file because the teeth are spaced too far for the bars on the filing system. That was the Archer skip tooth chain. This is the V Modest full comp chain, freshly filed with the steel 2-in-1 system. Let's see how this one cuts. That was the V Modest. I'm not going to make any predictions on how these cut because it's been a couple weeks since the first cuts I made with them, and perfectly honest, the last time I tried making predictions like that, I failed miserably. So I guess the numbers on the screen will tell you how they cut. And the results are in, and they're inconclusive. So apparently the time cuts for a waste because the log must have been completely frozen for the initial cuts, and now that it's warmed up, all the cuts are much faster. So the 810 and the Forester improved times the most, and then the V Modest and the Archer are just slightly faster. So I really can't tell if that is realistic or just because the log is softer, not frozen. As far as the chain stretch, it's really hard to measure. It does appear that the Forester and the 810 stretched the most. It's really not, it's what, a 1/16 of an inch or something the way I was measuring it. But those were also the two that were the hardest to get on the bar. Of course, like I said, I'm using a steel bar with an adapter mounted on a Husqvarna mount, so that might have something to do with it. If you notice in the background, I have a new saw I just built. I'm uploading the build series right now. I'll leave a link to that in the description, but I will put these chains on that bar on that saw to see if they fit a little nicer, to confirm that it is just because I'm using a steel bar on a Husky mount. But overall, I would probably, because of the length issue, I would probably lead towards the Archer or the V Modest as a preference to the other two, just because they fit on the bar. So with that, I guess that doesn't answer a whole lot of questions, but hey, it was fun. I got to play with chainsaws, and I have a couple spare chains laying around if I need them. So thanks for watching.